Moscow, 1988. Deep beneath the granite bulk of the Lubyanka, in a chamber that smelled of stale tobacco and machine oil, the air hung thick with the confidence of empire. Flickering fluorescent lights buzzed over a long oak table scarred by decades of clenched fists and spilled vodka. Maps of the Middle East sprawled across it, pinned with red flags marking proxy battlefields from Angola to Afghanistan. A projector clacked to life, casting grainy black and white slides onto a stained screen. Stolen snapshots from a U.S. Air Force test range in Nevada. General Yuri Petrovich Volkov, a bear of a man with a chest full of medals from the Great Patriotic War, leaned back in his creaking chair. His fingers drummed on a dossier stamped with the GRU's crimson seal. Around him sat the elite, Colonel Ivan Kuznetsov, radar wizard from the PVO Strany Air Defense Command, Major Elena Petrova, the sharp-eyed analyst who'd pieced together whispers from a defector in Los Angeles, and a cluster of younger officers, their uniforms crisp but eyes hungry for the old guard's wisdom. "Comrades," Volkov rumbled, his voice like gravel under tank treads, "the capitalists unveil their latest circus act. Behold, the F-117. He nodded to Kuznetsov, who advanced the slide. There it was. A faceted black ghost, all sharp angles and jagged edges, squatting on a desert runway like a rejected prototype from a science fiction novel. Laughter rippled through the room, low and knowing. Kuznetsov slapped the table. "Look at it. A flying ironing board. What American decadence is this? They think war is won with geometry?" Volkov's mustache twitched in a grin. He stubbed out his Belo Morcanal cigarette in a tray overflowing with butts. "Precisely, Ivan. Our spies confirm it. Have blue, they called the early tests. Now it's operational, stealth, they boast, invisible to radar." He paused for effect, letting the word hang like a bad joke. The room erupted again, harsh, barking laughs that echoed off the concrete walls. Petrova, ever the cool one, slid intelligence photos forward. Blurry telephotos from Tonopah, grainy enough to hide sins but clear on the absurdity. Faceted surfaces to deflect radar waves. Composite materials instead of aluminum. Subsonic speed barely 600 kilometers per hour. Payload? 2,000 pounds of bombs if it doesn't shake apart first. Kuznetsov snorted, pulling a diagram of their own S-300 system from his briefcase. "Decadence. Our radars, the 36D radars on the SA-10, the P-18 spoon rests, they paint the sky like a Siberian winter. VHF bands, UHF floods. Nothing hides. This birdhouse will light up like a Christmas tree at 200 kilometers. And those angles? Try that in rain or dust, comrades. The facets fill with mud. The coatings peel. It's a toy for sunny parades, not the mud of the Fulda Gap." The younger officers nodded vigorously. Lieutenant Sergei Malinovsky, fresh from Afghanistan where he'd watched Stinger's humble Mi-24 Heinz, leaned in. "Why bother? Our Su-27s outfly it, outgun it. Flankers with R-27 missiles, supersonic interceptors that turn the night into day with infrared. This F-117 creeps along like a burglar afraid of the wind. One burst from a 23mm cannon, and poof, expensive confetti." Volkov raised a hand, silencing the mirth. He wasn't one for blind mockery. The Great Patriotic War had taught him caution. But logic was logic, and Soviet logic was forged in the crucible of mass production and unbreakable will. Think, comrades. The Americans drown in complexity. Their B-1 Lancers guzzle fuel like drunkards. Their F-15s cost a fortune per hour. This F-117? Estimated unit price, $50 million. For what? A precision bomber that can't carry a full squadron's worth of ordnance. Slow, vulnerable on ingress. No dogfighting capability. It's the ultimate expression of their rot, relying on gadgets while our men endure. Remember our doctrine. Quantity has a quality of its own. We have thousands of MiG-29s, Fulcrums ready to swarm, air defenses layered like onion skins, Panzer shorts, Buck mediums, S-300 longs. In Iraq, our systems guard the Republican Guard. Baghdad's skies are a no-fly zone for fools. If this ghost comes calling, our radars will scream. Lock on, track, SAM launch. Simple, brutal, effective. Petrova tapped the photo. And the engines, non-afterburning turbofans, buried inside to muffle infrared. Cute. But our Igla manpads see heat like wolves smell blood. One shoulder-fired rocket from a conscript in the sand, and their emperor has no clothes. The projector whirred to the next slide. Schematics pieced from defectors and satellite overflights. Volkov traced the angular wings with a thick finger. 60 degrees sweep, no radar reflector in sight. They claim it scatters waves. Hollywood physics. Real war is waves crashing head-on. Our P-40 Rubicons, low-frequency behemoths, chew through stealth like wolves through sheep. We've tested it on our own prototypes. Nothing vanishes. Kuznetsov lit another cigarette, exhaling a plume that curled toward the vent. General, permission to speak freely. This is desperation. Vietnam broke their spirit. Now they're hiding instead of fighting. Our T-72s rolled through Budapest. Our SAMs humbled phantoms. The F-117 is a banker's plane, not a soldier's. Volkov nodded, his eyes gleaming. Precisely. They fear our numbers, our simplicity. Let them chase shadows. When the hour comes, and it will in the Persian Gulf or the North German plain, our screens will fill with blips. We'll laugh last. The room fell into satisfied murmurs, glasses clinking in a quiet toast to Mother Russia. Outside, the winter wind howled through Moscow's spires. But down here in the heart of the Soviet High Command, certainty reigned supreme. The F-117 was a punchline, a fleeting mirage in the endless night of superpower standoff. No one voiced the tiny doubt flickering in Petrova's mind, like a faulty tube in the projector. What if the shadows didn't scatter, but simply didn't appear? As the laughter faded into the haze of cigarette smoke, General Volkov pushed back from the table, his chair groaning like an old T-55 transmission. He paced the room's edge, boots thudding on the threadbare carpet, a habit from briefing Zhukov himself in the final push to Berlin. The others watched, rapt, as he summoned the doctrine that had carried the Rodina from Stalingrad to the Elbe, and would carry it through the coming storm. Comrades, Volkov began, his voice steady as the Volga's flow. Let us speak plainly of why this American gimmick poses no threat. Our strength is not in tricks of the light, but in the iron laws of war we've hammered out in blood and frost. He gestured to the maps, where red arrows swept from the Urals to the Hindu Kush, marking the empire's reach. Numbers, simplicity, endurance. These are our pillars. Kuznetsov nodded, unrolling a chart of production figures. Since the Great Patriotic War, we've built for the swarm. By 1988, our factories churn out Su-27s at 20 a month. Flankers with thrust-vectoring prototypes already whispering through the skies over Kubinka. MiG-29s flood the lines. Lightweight, lethal, 10 times the F-117's agility. Each fulcrum carries 6 R-73 Archer missiles, infrared snakes that home on engine heat without a radar ping. Cost? A fraction of their stealth folly. We don't need invisibility. We overwhelm. Volkov halted by the projector, flipping to a slide of Iraqi skies. Baghdad's layered shield, their greatest export. And air defense? Our doctrine is a fortress. Look here. The Iraqis, faithful students, ring their capital with our finest. S-300 PMU-1 batteries, the pride of NIIP, with 5 V-55R missiles reaching 150 kilometers. Their 64 N6 radars, big birds, scan in 3D, tracking 50 targets at once. Low-level, SA-6 gainfuls. Brutal and mobile, proven in the Yom Kippur War when they bloodied Israeli phantoms. Shorts, Zu-23 guns and Strela 2 manpads in every foxhole. Petrova interjected smoothly, her voice cutting like a bayonet. Layered, redundant, unbreakable. VHF radars like the P-18 detect stealth attempts at long range. Low frequencies that laugh at facets. UHF and X-band layers confirm and kill. In exercises at Kapustin Yar, we've simulated this exact scenario. A low-flying intruder, lock on in seconds. Our operators train in sandstorms, blizzards. Real war, not Nevada sunshine. The F-117 serpentine flight path. It burns fuel, stresses those delicate wings. Our SAMs don't care about paths. They flood the volume. The room murmured agreement, Lieutenant Malinovsky piping up from the end. And our men, comrades. Afghan mujahideen with stingers forced caution, yes, but we adapted. Conscripts become wolves under fire. In the Fulda Gap War games, NATO's shiny toys falter. Abrams bog in mud. Apaches thirst for fuel. Our T-80s? Simple diesel hearts, 1-200 horsepower brutes that ford rivers and fight for days on jerry cans. Pilots in MiG-31s loiter at 20,000 meters. Zaslon radars painting the horizon. One foxhound with AS-15 Keds, hypersonic darts, and no bomber returns. Volkov's eyes narrowed, invoking the sacred texts. Recall Ogarkov's words, deep battle. Not precision strikes, but massed thrusts shattering the enemy rear. The F-117 embodies Western fragility. Complex composites that crack in hail. Engines tuned for hush but starved of power. Subsonic 550 knots max. It crawls into SAM envelopes. Our S-200 Angaras, the old giants, stretch to 300 kilometers with radio-corrected warheads. Baghdad's net is denser, triple overlap. Mobile tells dodging counter battery. We've sold them the playbook. Kuznetsov leaned forward, jabbing the F-117 photo. Their philosophy crumbles under scrutiny. Stealth demands perfection. No rivets, no seams, paint thicker than skin. One chip from flak and radar cross-section blooms to truck size. Our P-37 missiles on Su-27s don't need RCS. They ride radar beams or infrared. And ECM, their jammers scream position. Ours simple, hardened, with manual backup. In Bekaa Valley, our SA-8s and SA-9s downed 82 Israeli jets in 82. Quantity turned quality. Petrova spread satellite recon. Soviet trainers in Iraq, mustachioed advisors barking orders amid palm groves. Saddam trusts us. His Republican Guard bunkers under our umbrella. Operation Desert Storm rumors swirl. Coalition buildup. But our systems guard the cradle of civilization. F-117s might probe, but they'll light up. We've gamed it. First wave detected at 250 clicks. Interceptors scramble, SAMs volley. Survivors limp home trailing smoke. Volkov resumed his seat, the weight of history settling. The West fights with wallets, we with will. Their pilots eject at the first hit. Our aces ram if needed, as in Korea. Simplicity scales. Train a peasant on an SA-7 in weeks. Their F-117, years of sims for nerds in flight suits. In the Gulf, when Bush's armada sails, our Iraqi allies will prove it. Radars glow, missiles rise, ghosts become graves. Sergei raised his glass again. To doctrine unbreakable. The toast echoed, but Petrova's gaze lingered on the black facets. Outside these walls, prototypes flew secret valleys, refining the unseen. Yet here, in the doctrine's forge, doubt was heresy. Soviet certainty was a monolith. Numbers burying nuance. Simplicity scorning subtlety. Baghdad's radars, brutal sentinels like the S-300's snarling fans, would vindicate them. Unseen, across the ocean, the first F-117s slipped from hangars, their angular hides drinking radar waves like parched earth. The Gulf winds gathered, carrying whispers of January 1991. But in Lubyanka's depths, the High Command slumbered secure, blind to the shadow already cast. January 17, 1991. Baghdad. The cradle of civilization pulsed under a moonless sky, its veins choked with the growl of generators and the whine of cooling fans. In a hardened command bunker beneath the Republican Guard headquarters, Colonel Dmitry Sokolov, Soviet advisor to the Iraqi 1st Adnan Division, hunched over a bank of oscilloscopes, the green glow painting his face like a ghost's. Beside him, Major Ahmed al-Rashid, his Iraqi counterpart, chain-smoked Rothmans, the air thick with tension and Turkish tobacco. Around them, a dozen operators manned the nerve center. P-18 spoon rests probing low and slow, 36D tin shields stacking high-altitude tracks, The crown jewel, a fresh S-300 PMU battery's 64N6 Big Bird, sweeping the horizon in relentless 3D arcs. "They're coming, Dmitri," Al-Rashid said, his voice steady as the Tigris. "Coalition bombers just like we planned. B-52s from Diego Garcia, F-117 swinging low over the desert. Our net will shred them." Sokolov nodded, adjusting a gain knob. He'd trained these men himself, straight from courses at the Frunze Academy. VHF radars for stealth hunters, UHF floods for jammers, X-band fire control for the kill. Layered like Voronezh birch bark, impenetrable. "Da, Ahmed. Lights out at 0300 Zulu. Our screens will sing." The bunker thrummed with purpose. Mobile SA-6 gainfuls prowled the suburbs, their boxy launchers camouflaged in palm groves. ZSU-23-4 Shilkas squatted on rooftops, quad cannons hungry. Strela 10s in every platoon. Igla prototypes rushed from Moscow. Doctrine pure, flood the volume, swarm the survivors. Sokolov glanced at the tactical map, red icons marking Baghdad's umbrella. Triple overlap, 200 kilometers deep. The F-117 whispers from GRU Intel? A joke. If those angular freaks dared the sand, low-frequency P-18s would paint them at 250 clicks, facets be damned. EO-300 came. Radars hummed, silent sentinels staring into the void. Sokolov sipped tea from a dented mug, joking with Al-Rashid about American pilots wetting flight suits. "Watch. First blips any second. Then Su-25s from Habaniya scramble, R-60 missiles turning the night to fireworks." Silence. 0305. A junior operator blinked at his scope. "Nothing, Colonel. Clean skies to Saudi border." Sokolov grunted approval. "Good. They're holding back, probing with drones maybe. Big Bird, full sweep." The massive radar whirred louder, its phased array devouring gigawatts, chasing phantoms across 400 kilometers. Still nothing. Al-Rashid lit another cigarette. "Cowards. Let them come." 03-10. The first tremor shook the bunker, a deep whomp, like distant artillery. Dust sifted from the ceiling. Al-Rashid laughed it off. "Scuds outbound? Or our AAA chewing decoys?" Sokolov checked the P-18 trace. Flat green line. Impossible. Something's here. Then the sky screamed. Not from radars, no pings, no locks, but from the thunder of precision. Laser-guided GBU-27 slammed into the presidential palace, 2 kilometers north, turning marble to rubble in fireballs that lit the horizon orange. Al-Rashid bolted upright. "Contacts, Big Bird, paint them!" Operators scrambled, knobs twisting, antennas slewing south. Nada. The 64N6's console beeped negative, its vaunted 50-target brain blind as a mole. Another ripple. H-3 airfield. Runways cratered by 2,000-pounders. Hangars for MiG-29s vaporized. Fuel farms blooming into infernos. Sokolov's radio crackled. "Panther actual, this is Viper 3. Osirak reactor site hit. No warning, no tracks. Egyptian 6 battery, their best SA-3s, silent. No inbound alerts." Panic clawed in. Al-Rashid slammed his fist. "We're blind? How?" Sokolov stared at the scopes, willing blips to appear. Low-level spoon rests should have seen wings at 200 meters, VHF waves crashing off any airframe like Volga ice. But the screens mocked them, empty as Siberian tundra. A third strike, telecommunications tower toppling in a cascade of sparks, plunging half the city into blackout. Shilkas opened up blindly, 23mm tracers stitching the stars. Waste. Doro 320. The ghost revealed itself, not on radar, but in fragments radioed from spotters. Black angular bomber, low and slow, serpentine over the Tigris, dropping silver rods, GBU-10s. F-117, call sign Vega 31, slithered through at 500 feet, facets drinking the S-300's flood like desert sand. No afterburner roar, just a muffled turbofan whisper, buried exhaust cool as moonlight. It pickled 2 Paveway 2s on a SA-6 site, the launcher blooming skyward in a secondary that rattled windows. Sokolov's hands shook as he keyed Moscow direct. "Lubyanka, this is Baghdad Sentinel. Air raid in progress. Multiple precision hits. Palace, airfields, C2 nodes gone. Radars, 0 contacts. Repeat, 0. Static, then a stunned reply. Confirm RCS, Big Bird status. Nominal power, full scan, nothing. They're ghosts. Across the Gulf, 18 F-117s from the 37th Tactical Fighter Wing prowled in pairs. Wild weasels clearing SAMs with AGM-88s, paths deconflicted by AWACS God's Eye. Each beast, a faceted predator weighing 30 tons yet agile as a MiG-21, released payloads with computer chill, 95% hit rate, untouched. Soviet nets, brutal giants meant to crush swarms, choked on vacuum. In the bunker, Al-Rashid screamed orders. Scramble interceptors, MiG-25s from Al-Sara. But Rubicon Foxbats launched blind. Infrared pits hunting heat that wasn't there. One F-117 jinked 30 degrees, dumping chaff like confetti, vanishing into clutter the radars should have pierced. By 04 SRO, 40 sorties done. Baghdad's heart carved out. Sokolov's final burst to the Kremlin. Systems intact, but impotent. The invisibles strike at will. The radio went dead. The bunker filling with acrid smoke from burning consoles. Outside, flames danced where pride had stood. Back in Moscow, dawn crept gray over the Kremlin spires. A teletype clattered in the GRU watch office, spitting Sokolov's words. Volkov's hand trembled as he read, the room's earlier laughter a distant echo. The glitch had come, not a breakdown, but a revelation. The flying ironing board didn't light up. It erased the sky, and in that void, Empire cracked. Dawn's feeble light filtered through the Kremlin's reinforced windows, casting long shadows across the GRU's war room. The same oak table from 3 years prior now bore fresh scars, claw marks from urgent briefings on Desert Storm's opening salvos. General Yuri Petrovich Volkov stood frozen, the teletype strip clutched in his meaty fist, Sokolov's words searing like frostbite. Systems intact, but impotent. The invisibles strike at will. Around him, the elite reconvened in disarray. Kuznetsov, his radar wizard's confidence shattered, chain-smoking with hands that wouldn't stop twitching. Petrova, pale as birch bark, sifting frantic intercepts. Young Malinovsky, eyes wide, replaying Baghdad's radio chatter on a reel-to-reel. The room, once a fortress of certainty, fell into a suffocating silence. No laughter now, no clinking glasses. Just the teletype's relentless clatter, spitting updates like machine gun fire. Palace complex 80% destroyed. No prior warning. H3 airfield. 8 MiG-29s lost on ground. Runways impassable. S-300 battery at Taji. Radar nominal. Missiles unfired. Telemetry shows 0 lock-ons. Volkov's mustache drooped as he slammed the strip down. Sagos. Blind. Our best, comrades. Exported crown jewels. And they see nothing. Kuznetsov lunged for the console, replaying Sokolov's burst transmission. The bunker's panic bled through static. Al-Rashid's howl. Contacts, paint them Allah's sake. Cut short by a thunderous crump. Consoles frying under overload from phantom EMPs. Big Bird at full gigawatts, Sokolov's voice cracked. VHF floods, UHF backups, flatlines. They're here, Dmitri, bombs falling from empty sky. Then screams, the snap of Shilkas firing blind, tracers arcing uselessly into the void. The S-364N6, that phased array behemoth with its snarling cooling fans and 300-kilometer grasp, reduced to a mute statue, its missiles slumbering in tubes like coffins. Petrova stabbed at a satellite feed, grainy infrared from a Cosmos 1937 bird. Blossoms of orange erupted across Baghdad's heart, presidential bunkers gutted by GBU-27s, 2,300-pound penetrators burrowing through meters of reinforced concrete, Soviet spec, tested against Pershings. 18 sorties, she whispered, tallying. F-117s confirmed by spotters. Low, 500 feet, serpentine over the Tigris. No engines screaming. Just a hush, like wind through facets. Payloads away at 20 miles. Paveway lasers riding designators from orbiting F-14s. Hit rate, 94%. Our SA-6's gainfuls with that brutal 9K-33 punch, gone. Launchers shredded before crews could ripple fire. The silence deepened, broken only by Malinovsky's gasp at the audio logs. F-117 pilot's cool drawls. Vega 31 bombs away, good release. No evasion chatter, no SAM warnings from AWACS gods. The Nighthawk, that flying ironing board, 30 tons of faceted obsidian with sawtooth edges and radar-absorbent veins, slithered through their net like a knife through fog. Its RCS, a marble's whisper at X-band, a gnats at UHF. VHF P-18s, low-frequency brutes meant to shatter stealth with meter-long waves, drowned in ground clutter. The beast didn't reflect. It scattered, diffracted, absorbed. Buried F-404 turbofans, diamond exit nozzles cooling exhaust to ambient. Igla manpad sniffed nothing but desert chill. Volkov collapsed into his chair, the creak echoing like a T-72's final groan. "Play it again," he rasped, Sokolov's final plea. "Lubyanka, air raid. Precision hits on C2, airfields, SAMs, radars, 0. Repeat, 0 contacts, ghosts." Then blackout. Panic surged in the room. Kuznetsov tore at diagrams, recalculating RCS math that mocked him. Facets at 30 degrees, composites tuned to our bands. But we gamed this at Kapustin Yar. Prototypes lit up. Petrova's voice sliced through. Not prototypes. Operational. Rain-shedding coatings, serpentine paths burning just enough fuel. Our doctrine, flood and swarm, chokes on nothing to flood. Sensory ghosts haunted them. Intercepted Iraqi footage, shaky camcorder from a rooftop. Silent black wedges blotting stars, silver bombs tumbling end over end, igniting fuel dumps in slow-motion fireballs that singed palm fronds a kilometer out. No Doppler shift on spoon rests, no infrared bloom for R-73 Archers. MiG-25 scrambled late, Foxbats clawing to 70,000 feet. Zaslon radars sweeping futilely, high, fast, blind to the low lurkers. One Rubicon tangled with an F-15C escort, R-40R missile glancing off ECM before Eagle guns chewed its tail. Reports piled. Osirak remnants cratered anew. Republican Guard HQs decapitated. Baghdad's triple-layer onion peeled in 90 minutes, 42 tons of ordnance, surgical as a scalpel. Shilka's 23mm hail rattled empty air. Strela 2s chased decoys. The S-300's impotence stung deepest. 5V-55R missiles, hypersonic killers with 150-click reach, starved of targets. "Impudent," Volkov muttered, face ashen. "Our philosophy, numbers against nuance, but nuance wins when screens stay black." Kuznetsov slammed the table, voice breaking. "They erase us, not scatter, vanish. P-40 Rubicons in reserve, low-band giants should have seen the shape, but no shape registers." Petrova nodded grimly, pulling defectors' notes. "Have blue refined, internal bays, no drag. Speed irrelevant. Ghosts don't dogfight." Malinovsky whispered the horror. "Baghdad burns, comrades. Our best student shamed. What now for Fulda? For the Rodina?" Silence reigned again, heavier than lead shielding. Volkov stared at the F-117 slide. Its angles no longer absurd, but predatory. The laughter died that night, replaced by the teletype's dirge. Empire's radars, brutal sentinels forged in the Great Patriotic War, pierced by shadows they couldn't touch. Panic flickered in the air, raw, unspoken. Copy or perish. The high command teetered, the void swallowing their certainty whole. Volkov's fist unclenched, the teletype strip fluttering to the table like a fallen banner. The war room's fluorescent hum mocked them now, a dirge for doctrines dying. Kuznetsov paced, muttering RCS equations under his breath, his wizard's charts scattered like broken talismans. Petrova's fingers flew over a calculator, cross-referencing Baghdad's final telemetry. 0 Doppler returns, no phase shifts, just the abyss where blips should swarm. Malinovsky slumped against the wall, replaying the audio loop, Sokolov's cracked plea, "Ghosts," until it etched into their souls like shrapnel. "Philosophy," Volkov growled finally, his voice a rumble from the Volga's depths. "That's what we've lost. Not radars, not missiles, our entire edifice." He swept an arm over the maps, red arrows now bleeding black from Iraqi craters. Baghdad, that cradle armored in Soviet iron. P-18s growling like Volga wolves, S-300s hulking as T-80 behemoths, laid bare in 90 minutes. 18 Nighthawks, creeping subsonic shadows with 30-ton frames and diamond-edged wings, had danced through the net unchallenged. Facets tuned to swallow X-band fire control pings, composites feasting on UHF floods, buried exhausts chilling infrared to moonlit mist. The big bird, that phased array colossus with its gigawatt glare and 50-target brain, stared blind into the serpentined paths over the Tigris. Petrova broke the hush, her analyst's edge honed sharper by defeat. "We humanized our machines as brutes, simple, enduring, forged for the swarm. The T-72 charges mudflats, shrugs off hits with sheer mass. Our radars flood like artillery barrages, VHF waves crashing meter-long against any hull. But this..." She jabbed the F-117 slide, its angular hide a predator's sneer. "Not brute, surgical. It doesn't fight the flood, it evaporates in it. RCS a snake's whisper, 0.001 square meters at 10 gigahertz, scattering like desert mirage. Our low bands, ground clutter swallowed the diffraction. No reflection to ride, no heat to chase. Pilots jinked 30 degrees on fly-by-wire nerves, dumping chaff that our ECM-hardened systems mistook for rain." Kuznetsov halted his frenzy, slumping into a chair. His hands, once steady on oscilloscope knobs, trembled as he lit a Belomorcanal, the flame dancing like Baghdad's pyres. "We laughed at complexity, comrades. Decadence, we called it. $50 million for a subsonic burglar. But look, internal bays, no drag penalty. GPS spines threading SAM envelopes like needles through onion skins. Our S-300 missiles hungered for locks that never came. 5 V-55Rs, hypersonic spears with radio command brains, impotent in vacuum. Shilka stitched stars with 23mm Fury, Strela 2s clawed at decoys, MiG-25s clawed high, Zaslan radars sweeping for shapes that weren't there. The Nighthawk didn't endure. It evaded the endurance test altogether. Memories flooded Volkov. Zhukov's war room in 45, screens alive with Luftwaffe blips shredded by yak swarms. Quantities quality, 10,000 Il-2 Sturmoviks grinding Wehrmacht to dust. But here, nuance trumped numbers. The F-117, that flying ironing board, prowled at 500 feet. Turbofans muffled to a ghost sigh, releasing GBU-27 penetrators. 2,300 pounds of laser-guided hell burrowing through Republican Guard bunkers like hot knives through our vaunted ferro-concrete. Osirak's ghost rose again, runways pocked, MiG-29 hangars ash. Spotters glimpsed it, black wedges blotting constellations, silver rods tumbling silent before thunder. Malinovsky stirred, voice raw from Afghanistan's echoes. "Our men, Sokolov, al-Rashid, they fought blind. Doctrines of deep battle demand targets to shatter. But voids shatter us. Full-to-gap war games mocked Abrams in mud. Now their ghosts mock our skies." He gestured to intercepts, Bush's coalition surging, F-15s now kings unchallenged. Baghdad's fall cascaded, command decapitated, Scuds leaderless, the Republican Guard exposed like a gutted fish. Volkov rose, shoulders sagging under great patriotic medals. The room watched, breath held, as he keyed the secure line to the General Secretary's Dhaka. "Kremlin direct, this is Volkov. Baghdad report. Total air supremacy ceded. S-300, P-18, full spectrum, nil detections. F-117 operational stealth confirmed. Philosophy flawed. Simplicity yields to subtlety. Recommend immediate countermeasures." Static hissed. Then Gorbachev's clipped reply, "Countermeasures?" Volkov glanced at Petrova's notes. Defectors' whispers of Tonopah refinements. Copy it, Comrade General Secretary. Facets, absorbers, buried engines. Reverse engineer from wreckage. Our Beriev labs, Sukhoi skunk works. Pour the rubles, or the shadows fall on Moscow next. The line clicked dead. Silence crashed anew, heavier than S-200 launchers. Kuznetsov exhaled smoke, eyes distant. From laughter to this. Our radars, brutal sentinels of the Rodina, pierced by invisibles. Petrova nodded, stacking dossiers. The glitch wasn't tech, it was hubris. We built for wolves, they bred phantoms. Volkov crushed his cigarette, grinding it like the Empire's fading illusions. Outside, Moscow stirred under gray skies. But here, certainty crumbled. No more mockery of decadence. Engineers would toil in Ural's bunkers, chasing facets through wind tunnels, composites in secret forges. The F-117 didn't just blind Baghdad, it blinded the Soviet soul. They stopped laughing that dawn, and in the ashes of Soviet pride, the Cold War's greatest copier stirred to life.